Okay, let's talk about a real giant of philosophy, George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. If you've ever even tried to read him, you know the reputation. He's famously, notoriously, just mind-bendingly difficult. But the real question is, why? So let's dive in and try to untangle this whole thing.
Now, here's the thing. What's so interesting is that the difficulty isn't really his vocabulary. It's that Hegel just doesn't think like most other philosophers. Seriously, he's not just using a different language, he is operating on a completely different mental framework. To get him, you literally have to learn to think in a new way.
So how in the world do we get a grip on Hegel's unique way of thinking? Well, the best way to understand it is to start by looking at the kind of thinking that we're all used to. Think about most arguments you read, right? They follow what you could call linear logic. It's a step-by-step progression. You go from A to B to C. It's like you're following a straight line. But reading Hegel, it is nothing like that. It's been described as being more like diving straight into the middle of a swimming pool. You're just there. You have to get your bearings by sending out feelers in all directions at once just to figure out where you are.
And that right there is the key difference. A philosopher like, say, Kant, connects different propositions to build a long argument. But Hegel does something else entirely. He'll take a single, massive concept, like being, and spend an entire book just unpacking everything that's already hidden inside of it. He's not building a chain, he's exploring a whole world.
So how does he do this? How do you think your way around inside a concept like that? Well, he has a very specific tool for it, a kind of logical engine that drives his entire philosophy, and it's called the dialectic. The word dialectic literally means to think something through. And for Hegel, that's exactly what it is. It's this method for understanding a concept not by defining it on its own, but by seeing how it relates to its complete opposite, and how the tension between those two creates something totally new and way more complete. This process usually works in 3 steps. You start with a thesis. That's your initial idea, like pure being, just existence. Simple enough. Then you have its logical opposite, the antithesis, which would be non-being, or just nothing. Now, they seem like total opposites, right? But Hegel says they actually imply each other. Think about it. An object in the real world is always changing. It is what it was not a moment ago, and it is not yet what it will be in the next moment. This constant flow, this tension between being and non-being, well, that creates a new, more complete concept, becoming, and that is the synthesis. I know, that might still sound incredibly abstract. So let's move to one of his most famous examples and see how this whole thing builds into a really powerful story about what it means to be human. This is probably the most influential part of all of Hegel's work. The master-servant dynamic isn't just some simple power relationship. For Hegel, this is the very crucible where our self-consciousness gets forged. The whole story kicks off with a fundamental, very human need, the need for recognition. And this is the core of it all. Hegel argues we can't be a self in a vacuum. You don't figure out who you are by just sitting alone in a room. Your identity, your very sense of self-consciousness, is formed by how other people see you and how you see them. Our identities are totally relational. So in the beginning, this is our thesis, the master establishes his identity by force. He dominates the servant to prove his own freedom, his own independence. He's the one who acts, and the servant is just an object, a thing that serves his will. The master seems to be the one who's fully self-conscious, right? But hang on. Right away, a contradiction pops up. There's this uncomfortable truth hiding in plain sight, right there in the words themselves. To even define yourself as a master, you absolutely require the existence of a servant. His entire identity is fundamentally dependent on the very person he's dominating. And here is the antithesis, the great reversal. The master, in his big quest for total independence, has actually made himself utterly dependent. The servant is the one doing all the work, shaping the world. And this is critical, the master needs the servant's recognition to even feel like a master. But think about it. Can recognition from someone you just see as a thing, as an object, ever be truly satisfying? So the supposedly independent master is now trapped, while the servant, through their actual work, is gaining a real sense of self. This leads us to the synthesis. The struggle finally gets resolved when both of them realize that true freedom isn't found in dominating someone else. It's found in mutual recognition. A real, stable identity comes not from independence, but from interdependence.
where each person sees and is seen by the other as a full, complete human being.
Now, this way of thinking, this dialectical engine that finds truth inside of contradictions, it didn't just stay in philosophy books. Oh no. It absolutely exploded out into the world and shaped the next 2 centuries of thought. I mean, the list of Hegel's heirs is just astounding. Karl Marx took the dialectic and applied it to class struggle. The existentialists wrestled with his ideas of recognition and alienation. It shaped American pragmatism and even branches of theology. The whole idea that we feel alienated or disconnected from ourselves and others, that flows directly from this master-servant story. His influence is just everywhere.
And so we're left with this really powerful and maybe even unsettling question. Hegel forces us to pretty much abandon the idea of the isolated, self-sufficient individual. If who we are is forged in our relationships, in our dependence on one another, then what does it really mean to be you? It's a question the world has been wrestling with ever since.